YouTube land. Welcome back to SAS Gaming with another how-to video. This time we're jumping into a new game that's in alpha called Medieval Dynasty. It's a game where you basically build a settlement in the medieval times. It's quite fun. It is a survival game, of course. So here with today's video will be 14 tips how to begin the game and make sure that you can thrive in the game nice and early and not struggle too much. So let's get it going. Just a reminder, I stream on Twitch, YouTube and Trovo Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays, 18:30 GMT +2. Join me, it'll be fun. Tip number 1. Getting rocks. You need rocks to make an axe. That is basically one of the most important things at the early game. They are the size of a small ball and they are shinier than the rest of the rocks. You'll notice them more and more as you play the game and you'll find them easier. Also, they can be found in grassy areas and dirt areas, and like I said, once you know what they look like, you can spot them easily. Tip number 2. Getting sticks. These can be gathered by picking them up from the floor or harvesting them from small thin trees. The small thin trees are smaller than the player character, so it's basically eye level, and in the winter and autumn seasons there are quite a lot of sticks lying on the ground. But it's easy enough to find them. You'll notice them as you run around. Sticks are quite important early in the game and basically throughout the game. You use them a lot to create buildings, especially the initial house that you will create when you're venturing on your quests. Number 3. Creating an axe. You can use the stones and sticks that you've collected to create an axe and chop down bigger trees. The bigger trees are of course quite important for building bigger structures later on in the game. Tip number 4. Create extra axes. You will need to cut down a lot of trees. As in all survival games, wood is important. So always make sure that you have 1 or 2 extra axes in your inventory. Another sassy tip. Look out for feathers after cutting down a tree. Feathers fall down as soon as the tree starts to fall down. If you're lucky, you can get 2 bundles of feathers, otherwise you'll only get 1 or 0 when cutting down a tree. You will need them to creating arrows. The crafting menu. The crafting menu is easily opened up by pressing Q, and you can navigate with your mouse, except with mouse button 1 and go back with mouse button 2. Nice and simple. Here you can create the axe. You can create a stone hammer, you can create stuff to build with, a pathway, a fire to keep yourself warm and to sleep next to at night. Nice and simple. Tip number 6. When crafting an item, if you have enough resources to craft multiples of that specific item, all you have to do is, instead of clicking the left mouse button to accept creating the item, just click R instead and then navigate with D or E to make more of the item. So if you've got enough resources to make 4 axes, as an example, then press R. So you press Q, navigate to the axe, press R, move the slider all the way to the right, and then left mouse to accept. Nice and simple. And you create many items of the same item instead of having to click create the whole time. Tip number 7. Completing side quests for villagers. This will bring in dynasty reputation points, as well as some food and some coins sometimes. Of course, money is required to buy stuff, and food is required not to die. And in Medieval Dynasty, it's a good thing not to die. Like it is in most games, to be honest. Speaking of dynasty reputation points, dynasty reputation points are there for your little village to be able to grow. It will grow from a small hovel situation to a settlement, to a town, to a big city, and as you grow you are able to build more buildings. So you'll be able to build 4 buildings, then 8 buildings, then 16 buildings, and so on. So as you complete missions and complete quests and main quest lines, your reputation grows, as well as the fact that your dynasty reputation grows, and then you can build more buildings, which is always a good thing for you. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you will get money from completing side quests. Now, you will need money to buy things that you cannot craft yet. The easiest ways to make money is for you to collect berries, mushrooms and sticks. These can literally be picked up, especially berries in the spring and the summer, In spring you will get unripe berries. Summer you'll get ripe berries, of course, which can also be consumed. Mushrooms you can get spring, summer and autumn, and especially in the autumn months. There are a lot of mushrooms and different varieties of mushrooms. Just beware, a small tip for you, some of the mushrooms in the autumn are poisonous. So don't go and eat them, because you'll die. Or at least get poisoned and then die, Now, to make more money with things that you can craft, not just harvest like berries and mushrooms, you can craft axes and knives. These items will generate a lot more profit per item, but the scarcity of rocks will make the method take longer, because you will need rocks to create axes and knives. So you can sell them for more, but it will take longer to craft them. The good thing about berries is 1 berry equals 1 gold. So if you find a patchy area with 200 berries and you can harvest them all, you can make 200 gold. Just make sure that you sell at different vendors, because they'll all buy everything from you. Just make sure you don't exhaust their gold by selling everything to the same vendor at the same time. Now, hunting and survival, spears and a knife. Always carry around 3 spears with you, especially early game, because you won't have access to a bow yet. You can unlock the bow later on, and of course the bow will be the best thing for you. But spears are your main hunting tool initially, but they do break fast after 3, interactions with it. Either you throw it 3 times and pick it up, or you stab an animal 3 times, the spear will break. So if you are getting hunted by a wolf, or a wolf pack for example, make sure you've got a couple of spears on you. You don't want to go running out after you fight a wolf and there's no more spears left, but the wolf is still there, because that'll be bad for you. And then of course the knife is good for skinning animals. That'll make sure that you get leather and fur if you are hunting rabbits, from fur, and you'll also get meat, which you can then cook over a fire, and then make sure that you don't die of hunger. So this is just a win. The meat can be cooked, as I mentioned, and later on, as you unlock more skills and technologies, you can then make better food. So you can make pottages and gravies and stews and stuff like that. So meat is also quite important. Tip number 12, a hunter tip. You can also kill with your axe if you need to. If an animal attacks you, like a boar or a wolf, or you want to attack a deer, for example, because you want the meat or the leather, you can use your axe if you have no spears left. The axe have saved my bacon a few times. However, as you do a few missions for Alwyn, you'll notice Alwyn in your starting civilization of Gostovia, you will unlock the bow, which is a very effective hunting tool. I've just got one thing to say: headshots. Headshots. Remember that. A small tip for traversing the landscape is crossing the river. You will notice there's a lot of bridges around, and you'll be thinking in the winter time the river will be quite cold. However, the good news is currently the river does not affect your temperature, so you can cross just as you please with no issues, even in the winter. Just don't forget, instead of trying to cross the bridge every time, you can just run across the river when you want to. However, if the bridge is just a stone's throw away instead of crossing next to it, do use the bridge. It is quite faster. And the last step of today's video will be choosing the location for your settlement. Remember, the land should be open and vast and close enough to the towns of Gostovia and Barova, as your main missions will be there and you will need to do a lot of trading with these 2 towns. So plan ahead and scout out a few areas before you decide to break ground. It is important that you don't have an area that is big enough for now and not big enough later on where you have to expand. I made that my mistake in my initial game. Enough space for 5 or 6 buildings, but as soon as I had to expand, I needed to look for different areas and going farther away from the settlement. And later on, you'll want the settlement to be close together because you'll want to build a palisade fence around it, for safety. And the wolves don't just run through your building. And that's it. That's all you need to know to have fun starting the game and not get frustrated of things you don't know where to get and what to do with. Remember, mushrooms and berries are good for food and tradable goods. Don't forget that. Do remember I stream on Twitch, YouTube, and Trovo Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Do come over, have a chat, hang out, let's have some fun. You can talk about the game. If you have any more questions, I can hope to answer them for you. And we'll have some fun. And always, good luck, have fun.